What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. How are you all doing today? Are you feeling good? Are you feeling great? Are you feeling pure? I don't even know how one feels pure, but that's besides the point. Y'all have heard of pureflix, right? You know, movies like Heaven is for Real, Finding Normal, God's Not Dead, and others. Or did your family not make you sit down and watch a bunch of remarkably unrealistic movies to instill a persecution complex in you at the age of 9? No? Okay. If you are completely lost as to what I'm referring to, pureflix is a Christian streaming service. It's like Netflix, but somehow it manages to make content that's like worse than Riverdale and The Kissing Booth combined. A lot of his movies are plagued with bad acting, unrealistic plots, terrible monologues, fear tactics, persecution complexes, and just all that jazz. A lot of them seem to be designed to convince Christians, specifically American Christians, that the entire world is out to kill, crush, and destroy them at every second of the day. So today I thought it would be fun to look at their trailers, both old and new, and discuss them. Because I've been getting ads for pureflix movies that I watched like 10 years ago when I was 6. That would be like watching a TV show and getting an ad for Shrek or something. Except that would be less painful to watch. Before I get into it, I would like to give a quick disclaimer that I'm not trying to offend any specific religious group or anything. I'm specifically trying to offend the producers of Christian movies. They are the problem here. That being said, let's take a look at what perhaps is their most popular movie, God's Not Dead.
Name? Wheaton. Josh Wheaton. Philosophy 150.
You might want to think about a different instructor.
Come on, man, it can't be that bad.
Think Roman Colosseum, people cheering for your death.
Okay, I remember that scene very specifically from my childhood. At the time, like when I was watching, I didn't realize how weird it was because I was like 9 years old. But I remember seeing that scene and my family was like, oh, so they all know about it. And looking back at it doesn't make any sense because if everybody at this campus knows that this professor is really mean to Christians for no reason, wouldn't he have gotten fired by now? Like, you can't just actively discriminate against one religion in a public university and get away with it. Especially Christians, because a lot of people in America are Christians. If he was being mean to one Hindu student, then maybe that wouldn't go reported because there's not a lot of Hindu students. But if he's being mean to Christians specifically, wouldn't that cause an uproar? They wouldn't just be like, Joe just hates Christians. We just let him persecute people in class. No, you work at a public university. You can't just do this.
Senseless debate altogether and jump to the conclusion, which every sophomore is already aware of, there is no God. All that I require from each of you is that you fill in the papers I've just given you with 3 little words: God is dead.
I love how everybody in that classroom is just acting so nonchalant about that. Oh yeah, this professor just asked a bunch of students at a public university to directly denounce the existence of God and turned it in as an assignment. Yeah, that's definitely not against the rules. Also, what an aggressive way to say that you're an atheist, because usually when someone's an atheist, they could just say that they don't believe in God, or they just say that they don't think God is real or stuff like that. They don't say that God is dead. I've never heard somebody say that, because that would imply that he was once alive but has since passed away, making him mortal. Unless they're saying that religion is dead, which would be a wildly inaccurate statement because a lot of people across the world are religious. Some religions are basically dead. I don't see a lot of people worshiping Zeus anymore, but religion itself will never be dead.
Something wrong.
I can't do what you want. I'm a Christian.
If you cannot bring yourself to admit that God is dead, then you will need to defend the antithesis.
I don't want anyone to get talked out of believing in him just because this professor thinks they should.
Mr. Wheaton, are you ready?
We're going to put God on trial.
If you think you're smarter than me, Wheaton, do not try to humiliate me in front of my students.
What? Sorry, I'm just now realizing how ridiculous this entire plot was, because I watched it when I was a child, and these things just flew over my head. First, we have a teacher who works at a public school in America, and openly asked his students to, directly denounce the existence of God, an assignment that you definitely cannot require. Then he gets surprised when a student refuses. Do you think that you wouldn't have a single Christian in that classroom? Actually, I'm surprised that there's only one. I'm surprised that they all just willingly did that. I would think that, I know that there are a lot of people that, aren't religious, but I would think that in this, big university, there would be more than one student that's a Christian. Even if somebody wasn't a Christian, you would think that they would question that assignment. They'd be like, hey, what the heck? I'm religious, but even if I wasn't religious and somebody did that, my professor did that, I would have a problem with that. I'd be like, no, you can't do that. You can't ask your students to do that. That's wrong. And they don't even have to be a Christian. They could be Muslim or Jewish or any other monotheistic faith. And then he makes a student teach his class. Hello, me editing here. I would also like to point out that if you make a wild claim and you tell everybody to believe you and then somebody disagrees, the responsibility does not fall on the person who disagrees with you to disprove you. The responsibility falls on you to prove that you're right. So in this case with the professor, since the professor made a claim and is telling all of his students to believe it, the responsibility falls on him to prove that he's right, not on a student to prove that he's wrong. You get what I'm saying? Like, he just ignored the regular curriculum and made a random student give a Sunday service every day? What? How were there no complaints about this? You'd think that somebody would be like, hey, I signed up for a philosophy class, and the professor, like, broke a rule openly in the first day, and now he's making a student prove the existence of God for, like, several weeks, and I'm not learning anything. And I would just, like, aggressively grabs him in the hallway. You think you're smarter than me? I gave you a ridiculous assignment that could probably get me fired, and then asked you to teach the class, and now you're doing it? Punk.
This experiment is over. You get to decide who the most important person in your life is. Me, Professor Radisson.
But I have to do this thing. Like it's something that God wants me to do. I can't just turn away from it.
You just want to ensnare them in your primitive superstition.
What I want is for them to make their own choice. That's what God wants.
You have no idea how much I'm going to enjoy failing you.
I don't think you can fail him for that. Like, I don't think you can. In fact, I don't think you can do any of this. How are you still a teacher? Anyways, basically the end of the trailer. Remember when I watched this movie, like, as a kid? There was, like, a Newsboys concert at the end of the movie, where, like, you know, because, like, the Newsboys have a song called God's Not Dead, and I don't know if the movie was inspired by the song, or the song was inspired by the movie. I'm assuming the song was inspired by the movie, I don't know. But I remember they had a Newsboys concert. And in the movie they said, they were like, I want each and every one of you to text the words, God's Not Dead, to everybody on your contact list. Which, looking back at it, is a weird thing to text a lot of people. But me being 9 years old at the time, I was like, yeah! So I got out my little iPod, and I texted everyone on my contacts list, God's Not Dead. I mean, that was only like my parents and my cousins and whatnot, but that still must have been a really weird text to get from a 9-year-old girl with, like, no context, just the words, God's Not Dead. They must have been so confused, like, they need a little bit of context for that. They're like, yeah, that's an accurate statement, but where on earth is that coming from? I probably freaked them out.
Are you ready to practice?
I can't do it.
Juilliard would be crazy not to enroll you. It's just stage fright.
I want to be someone else who is popular that everyone likes. I want to be Katie Sharp.
Isn't she one of the mean girls?
She's popular, she's beautiful and confident. Her life is perfect.
Did they actually name a website The Social for this? Like, they couldn't have just used Instagram? Maybe that was expensive, I don't know. Also, can't wait to see them demonize an entire character just because she's ultra feminine and wears a lot of makeup. Love when they do that.
Poor girl, she looks like she got her clothes from the dump.
Hi, Katie. I just wanted to wish you luck on your glam slam job because... Sorry. Here, you can wear my shoes.
I wouldn't be caught dead in your shoes.
Okay, this is definitely a sapphic love story, right? Like, right? The way she just really wants to be her? No. You got a crush. You got a fat crush on her. And it's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. I too also have a thing for ultra feminine girls. Like, the gay energy between them is enough to get an entire neighborhood through a power outage. Also, no one talks like that. No high schooler has ever said, like, oh, I wouldn't be caught dead wearing those shoes. So last season. Nobody says that at all. We might call shoes ugly or something or make fun of somebody's shoes, but we don't say, I wouldn't be caught dead wearing that. You don't just go up to an unpopular kid and start making fun of their outfit to their face. A more accurate representation of a popular girl would be giggling during a presentation or treating an unpopular kid like a pet. She's coming. How did they just do that, like, in the middle of the hallway? Like, first of all, how'd they have time between passing periods to get this bag full of, like, goop or whatever that was? Like, connect it or, like, attach it to the ceiling and then just, like, wait for her to walk by? And how did nobody notice, like, a group of kids, like, putting something on the ceiling and crowding around a hallway during a passing period? Like, when none of the teachers like, hey, what's going on there? Like, a bunch of kids just crowded around a doorway to spill slime on an unsuspecting victim in the middle of the hallway, and nobody noticed? Also, how did they even know that she was walking there? Like, did they memorize her schedule before this? None of this makes any sense.
Sis, I'm so sorry.
I don't want to talk about it.
Nobody has ever called their sister sis, unironically. That's not a thing. Nobody calls their siblings bro and sis. It's not a thing.
About it. Dear God, please show Katie Sharp what it's like to walk a day in my shoes. 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 Walk a day in my shoes.
So, like, she cursed to this girl. She was like, please show her what it's like to live a day in my shoes. It looked like she was casting a spell or something.
Cassandra Evans is digging through your locker. What do you think you're doing? Looks like there's a glitch in the system. We would never be friends with you guys. You're kind of losers.
No, we aren't.
Yes, you are. Who are we talking about?
Oh my gosh. Writers, please stop using the word loser unironically. Nobody calls unpopular kids losers, or geeks, or nerds, or like anything really. The only time you call somebody like a loser is if they're your friend and it's like in an ironic way, or if they're like your ex or something. You don't just call random unpopular kids losers. There's a boy who shows up to my school wearing cat ears and a dog collar every day, and we don't call him a loser. We just call him class of 2024.
Your latest video, outperforming everything.
I don't want to be that mean Katie Sharp.
This is your job, honey.
This is my business you're messing with.
I'm Skylar Stone, editor-in-chief of Glam Slam.
Okay, wait, so her parents like encouraged her to dump slime on this random girl at school and catch it on camera just for her YouTube channel or whatever she's doing? I mean, I get that people do a lot of stupid stuff on the internet for attention, like this video, for example, but like, how did she not get in trouble for that? I don't know how she got away with doing this in the middle of the hallway during school, but also, like, didn't somebody like report it, or didn't somebody notice that this girl was walking on with slime on her, like slime all over her hair? And the video of it happening was on the internet, and they know who did it? Like, how did she not get suspended or something for this?
It's my face. It's my life. You stole it from me.
We're leaving.
Wait, Clay! I'm Cassandra!
You're Katie Sharp.
Wait, why was he so nonchalant about that? Like, that was a really weird thing to say. Why did he just like ignore that? If someone got into a physical fight with my sister and then claimed to be her, I wouldn't just be like, no you're not, and then walk away.
You've ruined our reputation.
I don't care. Have either of you thought to ask what I do care about?
Cancel the audition.
No.
Do you still want this? What do we do now?
I think all we can do is make things right for each other. Now, it's really easy to judge someone, but before we idolize or bully them, we should take a minute to imagine what it's like to walk in their shoes.
Family hug.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay, so that's like cool and all, but are her parents not gonna get in trouble for this? I feel like forcing your daughter to pour slime on a random girl at her school, like for views on the internet, and forcing her to put on this entire persona just so you can like profit off of her is child exploitation. Just a little bit. They're just like, oh, I know that we forced you to be somebody that you're not for our own personal benefit and gain, but like, hugs? So next up, we're gonna take a look at God's Not Dead 2, because there's a sequel, and somehow it's worse. The bar was on the ground, and now it's below sea level, folks.
In this day and age, people seem to forget that the most basic human right of all is the right to believe.
No prayers, no moments of silence, nothing.
Wait, when did the moment of silence get taken away? We do that every day at my school. We do the pledge and then we have a moment of silence. Only like half the kids say the pledge because it's like 7 a.m. and nobody wants to talk, but like still, we have it. Only a few seconds in and you're already making stuff up.
Think of the other children out there who are subjected to their repressive belief system.
If we sit by and do nothing, the pressure that we're feeling today will mean persecution tomorrow. We're at war.
Okay, is this supposed to be like futuristic or like real life events? Because no, you're not oppressed in America. You're not. And no, not being allowed to discriminate against others is not oppression. Equal rights for somebody else does not mean less rights for you. It's not pie. Yes, I did steal that from an Instagram account, but it's still true, so shut up.
What makes nonviolence so radical is its unwavering commitment to a nonviolent approach.
Isn't that sort of like what Jesus meant when he said that we should love our enemies?
Yes. You have heard it said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you.
One of your students sent a text to their parents. Did this happen?
If you're asking whether I responded to a student's question, yes.
She literally didn't even say anything wrong. Like a kid asked a question and she answered it. A student just said, hey, that's kind of like what Jesus said, right? And she was like, yeah, he said this. How would you get in trouble for that? She didn't say yes and then whip out her Bible and try to convert them. I had a teacher who would literally like low-key preach during class, and she once told us that it was our job to like convert people before the rapture happened. And you know what people did? Nothing. Literally nobody cared. And there were like non-Christians in her class too, and they just didn't care. Nobody's going to throw a fit because you mentioned the Bible in a class for like 5 seconds and then use it to destroy your career.
And your answer incorporated the words of Jesus.
What were you thinking, Grace?
The Thawleys are asking that you be fired, plus revocation of your teaching certificate.
What? Oh my gosh, you just mentioned Jesus in a southern school where like everybody's a Christian? I'm sorry, we're gonna have to revoke your license and fire you. It wasn't like she went into a full-blown sermon or anything. Like, what this? Nobody would be mad about this. The student asked a question and she answered it. And the question was about a book. I could see maybe it was like, if it was like a Muslim teacher that did this or something, I could see this happening because there's like a lot of Islamophobia in America, especially in the South probably. But I just can't wrap my head around the idea that a Christian would mention God for like 5 seconds in a southern public school and they would get their license revoked. Like that wouldn't happen.
How do we make this go away and not get blood on our hands?
We let the ACLU do it.
We're going to prove once and for all that God is dead.
Ooh, here's our big bad atheist trope. If you're unfamiliar with that, let me educate you. The big bad atheist is one of the recurring characters in Christian media. The character who despises religion and actively tries to prevent others from practicing it. They usually secretly believe in God, but they hate God for some like traumatic thing that happened in their childhood or whatever. Which is something that I never really understood, because I know that people can like get angry with God when something traumatic happens to them, but personally I've never like felt that way, because I never really associate God with specific things in my life. Like if a loved one dies, for example, I never really associate God directly with that. Instead, I just look at what caused that, like logically explain how it happened. And that makes it where I'm not really angry at anybody, because it wasn't anybody's fault. It's just something that happened, and I know why it happened. But I also know that I can't give God credit for the good things if I don't give him credit for the bad. So in a similar way, I also don't directly associate him with good things that happen in my life. I also look for logical explanations for those as well. Instead, I kind of just rely on God for strength, no matter what happens, if that makes sense.
Mr. Kane will insist faith isn't on trial here, but that is exactly what is on trial.
You're looking to prove that Jesus Christ existed? Oh, that's ridiculous. I hate what people like your clients stand for and what they're doing to our society.
You're under arrest.
Okay, that was a lot. Very aggressive. I love how straightforward the big bad atheist is. Like, he's not very subtle at all. He just straight up says, yeah, I hate you and I think you're destroying society. What? And also, why is this dude getting arrested? Like, did he do something? Like, please tell me that they're not going to be like, oh, he got arrested for being a Christian. Like, they're not going to take it that far, right? Because I just cannot handle the ridiculousness of that. Like, please tell me that he actually broke a law or something.
These people, they're looking to destroy you. Everyone's telling me to stay out of it. What is your heart telling you to do?
I would rather stand with God and be judged by the world than stand with the world and be judged by God. I am not going to be afraid to say the name Jesus.
We got the Christian persecution complex, and the newsboys are back. Seriously though, I remember these tactics from when I was like a kid and I was like, you know, young and naive. I remember thinking that this was how the whole world would treat me because I was religious. Like everybody would just hate me and like I would just get persecuted like left and right. None of that happened. Because in reality, most people don't care. Like unless you're really aggressive about your religion and you make other people feel like crap for their life choices, nobody really cares. But I remember the raging fear that I had as a kid because of this stuff. I remember my pastor was giving a sermon once when I was a kid, and he was like, even when I'm on my knees with a knife to my neck, about to die for my faith, and I was like, sir? Like, I seriously had a fear that, like, I was gonna get beheaded because I was a Christian. I had a bit of an unhealthy relationship with religion as a child, and I'm still working to heal it. So that is all we're going to be discussing today. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please comment down below some suggestions. For my next video, I'm going to review some Yogi Yoab's merch because somebody asked me to do that. And his merch is just hilarious. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification so you won't miss that. If you don't know who Yogi Yoab is, to sum it up, he's like a terrible misogynist. He's like the biggest misogynist I've ever met. And he has a lot of misogynistic merch. So you don't want to miss that. So make sure you hit the notification bell so that you'll get notified when I make that. But anyways, I will see you guys next time. Stay safe, y'all.